Tenzin Dorjee Geshes Miscellaneous
Venerable Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen Tenzin Dorjee
Sancho Parado Dan Shabsu
Nage Chujur Jive Sonam Jin Tola Pinje Sanjo
Sangaje
Cheda Zoje Sonam La Sancho Pado Dane Shabsu Nage Chujur Jive Sonam Jin Tola Pinje Sanjen Dobara Sho
Sangaje
Cheda Zoje Sonam La Sancho Pado Dane Shabsu Nage Chujur Jive Sonam Jin Tola Pinje Sanjen Dobara
Sho Ola so ma jwe nang ki ta ta ni mi sin je tam ji je tön do to ja la na me ba yan da ba zo be san ji ji kum ba no me ji ne to bra sha go de to bra ja yin che to ta me che ren bo ji se nya be ko no san ju ji sim chi se sim be ko ne sem bra sho.
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of altruistic motivation, we should all participate in this teaching.
Ta lo nyin ton ta ane nga je kon la ne da je to ba he je to ba ane jagal phe ne ne san ji su te ne andus na yores.
Over 2,500 years ago, Shakyamuni Buddha manifested in India, and he gave many teachings.
Ta sanjin jitin de shamba te ane a sanjin jitin de shambaris.
Enlightened beings or Buddhas come to worlds in order to benefit sentient beings.
Ta and sanjin jitin de pebble sanjin jitin de pebble in sunny ta sanjin don't do actually pebbles.
In other words, enlightened beings, their motivation to come to worlds such as ours is in order to help, in order to benefit us sentient beings.
So, Senje Tamji, Dunge da Jeva Tang, Deva Tangi da Dembe Che to any Kondus papers.
Their motivation is altruistic in that they wish all sentient beings to be free from suffering for good and to be endowed with lasting peace and happiness.
Conducting Tawny, then singing the Dugun Gumdizani, that church number of a ten, the Tawnita, and a Dujala church number of a ten, the Duje Yanson Lani, and a Duja Quatang is so good to draw down the author to them because that lady those years.
The point I'm making here is this, that Buddhas come to our world with the altruistic motivation to benefit sentient beings in two different ways. Number one, they want sentient beings to be free from suffering, and number two, they want sentient beings to find lasting peace and happiness. Now, if you ask what methods or skillful means Buddhas provide beings to fulfill those two wishes, Buddha provides us pure and perfect teaching, which is called Dharma. And so by way of giving us a pure and perfect spiritual teaching, when we as individuals cultivate Buddha's teaching, which is called practicing Dharma, it is through this means of the method that we as individuals or sentient beings are able to free ourselves from the suffering of samsara or cyclic existence and find the kind of peace and happiness we are seeking. So what is universally known, if you will, is this, that Shakyamuni Buddha, our historical teacher, gave three main teachings, and these are called three turnings of the wheel of Dharma. So it is, from extensive point of view, Buddha taught as many as 84,000 forms of teaching or discourses. So Buddha gave so many teachings, but in terms of those who are suitable, if you will, to receive Buddha's teachings, we talk about three different types of listeners. So in terms of those who are recipients or listeners to Buddha's teachings, there are three kinds. Number one, there are the Sharvakas, or the hearers. In other words, individuals who have Sharvakas or the hearers' spiritual inclination or attitude. There are Patika Buddhas or solitude realizers, individuals who have that kind of spiritual inclination or attitude. And then there are Mahayanists, or the individuals with the spiritual inclination or attitude of greater vehicle Buddhism. So those are the three different types of recipients or the listeners of Buddha's teachings.
Tamapa so god they want the shin to doing sumbatele those doge chick those you are as humans.
Well, Buddha gave many teachings, and perhaps for regular people like us, all his teachings are too extensive to put into practice or to study them. Having said that, Buddha's teachings can be summarized in many different ways, and Buddha himself did that in a sutra. So let me quote Buddha's sutra and explain that to you.
So that the career is that door dune Dom do China, Tangaranso Code David Children, Tamapaton, Code David Children, that big by Jam is a hint. Give up person to run the sending was in the Sanji Tambains. At that, indicate an indo sit in the Carson with a senna. Do what Jam Majes, that do what's on Sajam Maresum. And do what Jamie. Give up person to a dress. And they give up casino droop to it, the joke race can. Do what Jamie Gobson. Gobson rang the sending was in those. That's all day. Digba Masa Bata gave a do completion. Tea tall carry, that's all you got as an rang the same thing do race. Then they in Sanji Tambains and the Channel do tank for those in the Dor Duni. Ta do Sumbains.
Summarizing his own teachings, Shakyamuni Buddha said in a sutra, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory. Buddha said, which is Digpachiyam Mijashi, which is the Tibetan translation of what Buddha said, which in English means never accumulate any negativity or negative karmic action. That means always accumulate the wealth of virtue or positive karmic actions. Always accumulate the wealth of positive karmic actions. One should completely tame one's mind, subdue one's mind. This is the teaching of Buddha. So basically, Buddha himself is telling us that, we must not do anything that is negative, but we should, make every effort to do that which is positive. And most importantly, we should try to discipline our mind. We should tame our own state of mind. Subduing our mind is the most important thing. And this, in essence, is the teaching of Buddha.
That knows Antony that it's not again to was. Let Tanguti do what Jam Majes Canangros. The Junse Carres, the Alisam Pound.
Now, in these 4 lines, Buddha gives us very profound messages, if you will. The first line reads, never accumulate or commit any negativity. Now, why he says that? What is the reason behind Buddha telling us do not do anything negative?
That take a reason. Maranzo Ganit, that bigger condition savi in there. Lutangata each gone. That bigger condition children condition savi in there. The Namite Yid Moache. That ran Jungu.
Now, the reason behind telling us not to do anything negative is this, that when we do a negative thing through our actions of body, speech, and mind, if we do anything negative physically, or say something negative, or think negatively, these negative actions of ours will bring us unpleasant results, the kind of outcomes of the results that we do not want to experience. We won't like them.
So the Nami Id Mo said the Karesana, Ranamdupi Nami Jun Karesana, Dungeta, Ne Nasata, Chain Pacheta, and that Ranamdupi Samalo, or that Rank Megi Santi, Nami the Rank Koga, so that this or that. The Tibetans and Majis Kanabati, Kichamichavers.
So it's important for us to understand that if we do anything negative, it will bring us unpleasant results. So what do we mean by unpleasant results? Unpleasant result meaning that the kind of result that we do not want to experience. For example, negativities bring us a lot of suffering, which we don't want. Negativity brings us all kinds of sicknesses that we don't want. Negativity brings us obstacles in our life that we don't want. And negativity, as a matter of fact, brings misfortunes in our life, the bad things in our life. So because we don't want these things in our life, these are very unpleasant to us. So therefore, Buddha is advising us not to do anything negative.
Gyawa kasi na drup tupaji, ta kasi drup tudu dugure kana. Tu tanda karre sana, rana likpe chok, debo ta chibo tang. Ta kari ina ta likpe chok changma lo rang ki gyawa de drup ni di nami ta rang nyongo yore, kogo yore, sonsa gyawa ta yakushi dugure kana.
And next Buddha tells us, always accumulate the wealth of virtue or positive actions. Now why he says that is because positive actions bring us the kind of results which are very pleasant, which we like. For example, that we want to be happy. Happiness comes from positive actions. We want peace. Peace comes from positive actions. We want prosperity. We want success. And all these good things that we want in our life, they come from positive karmic actions. So therefore, Buddha advises us to accumulate or to do positive actions.
Mi yingi dikba sani, di nami te rang jungo san chan jungo ya mar. Pena rangi yin mi yinda tagasin pa ya ne, rangi pena pama pingya ni dili na dinjugu mi ge le san, di nami te rang jungo san, rang di nyan do shuk tedo me na, chan jungo mar.
Now, a question that we might raise here is, can one experience, or would one experience results of karmic actions that other people create and accumulate? The answer is that we do not experience the results of good and bad karmic actions that others create and accumulate. And this is very true, no matter who the other person is. And the other person could be one's own very loving family members or parents, one's children, one's life partner, or one's best friend. If we do not participate in the actions, karmic actions that they do, we are not going to experience the results of their karmic actions.
Rang tedo mena sungre.
Honest.
Tatari, tataga na yeke mi yingi gyawa yang taba dubni di nami te rang la. Ta rang gyawa chan madrubashi mi yingi dubni di nami te rang nyoya ta te mabarste.
So the point I'm making here is that if others accumulate negative karmic actions, these others could be our parents, our children, our significant others, our best friends. If we do not participate in those karmic actions, we are not going to experience the negative results of others' negative karmic actions. For the same reason, if others are doing positive karmic actions, if we do not participate in those positive karmic actions, of course, we are not going to experience the positive results of others' positive karmic actions as well. The point to remember is, if we are involved in others' actions, positive or negative, then of course we are going to experience the positive and negative results of those karmic actions. But if we do not get involved in those actions, if we do not participate in those actions, then we are not going to experience the results of others' karmas.
ane sanje lando sen ta sanje kamde de ta nge ke kan thob mando ta sanje kamde de rang nga shabro sen ta ta ke rang ke de kon ge tu maje sen de na ane ya tabak thoyno de you are de me verda.
So in this regard, I would like to remind you that if a person sort of says to Buddhas in his or her mind, or even says it loudly, that, "Oh Buddha, you are a very compassionate person, and please try to save me. You are my refuge. I really can't do anything," and one really doesn't care, to stop negative karmic actions or to do positive karmic actions, but simply, ask Buddha to save one, that may not work at all. Because if one does not stop creating negative karmic actions and do positive karmic actions, simply asking Buddha to save us is not going to work.
Tin do rang na ka na yores ane nge senji je de do ya te nge dembe chö yang ta ba je te ne te duje nyang sala ne khoran su do gu yore te ma to nge ane ta khoran khre duje ane nyamne ma je ba se ne sanji rang pe do che yo ma ka na.
Buddha himself made it very clear in a sutta the way in which he can help our sentient beings. He said, the only way I can help you is I show you the truth, what the reality is, and then you practice and you realize the truth of my teaching. Otherwise, I cannot help you in any way to be free from suffering or to find happiness. Buddha cannot do things for us. Buddha could only show us the way or the truth, and we need to adopt that way or the truth, and we have to realize the truth for ourselves. That is the way out of suffering. That is the way to happiness.
Ta tangi tsugan yignan ta tsugan sumbatir was ta sunga sumbati karvesana rang sem ne yons ndulus rana sosu ane sem te tan deyala ngapa du tsamba chimba shagres kanar ta ke chimba res kanar.
So going back to the stanza I quoted, which summarizes Buddha's, teaching in his own words, the first line said, "Never commit any negativity." Second line says, "Always accumulate the wealth of virtue or positive actions." Then the third line, which I said is the most important one, says, "Completely tame your mind, subdue your mind." Now that's really, really important.
That thing, that you be junse the Hegores. Karesana rangi, Ranata Lutangata Yusum Yorvas. This Sungananta, eat the soft chihuchi chaliger. Eat so kill Karesana, Lutangani but the Yichi Jesun Tankures. Sontata, same to Gavala Nena, Lumani but the Gavala name Gore, same Miguel. That's Miguel one sombaina, Lutangani but the time Miguel Le Sani, those Chago Sonsa, around the same day at the Hidacation which I am but the Kanangaris.
So it is very important again for us to understand why Buddha advises us to completely tame our mind, discipline our mind, or subdue our mind. That's the most important thing to do. Why? Because each of us has got these three things: body, speech, and mind. And these are the dimensions of our life. Of these three things, mind is the most important dimension of our life. It's the most important thing we have. Why? Because mind dictates pretty much what our body and speech do. If our mind is in a positive state, then we may do positive actions physically and verbally. So that's how, when the mind is positive, it is likely that our actions of body and speech also become positive accordingly. On the other hand, if our mind is negative, then our actions of body and speech may also become negative, because mind motivates us into actions, and mind influences actions of body and speech. So it is in this sense that mind is the most important thing, and it is the master that orders things to do to the body and speech.
So you are. And in the talking handle, okay. In the talking handles, in the talking handles, Lunga is to need to tour the current thing handle. So that Ranga Luta Nani Botata, the same in your books of Chagin was.
It is said, that yin is social mind is the primary factor, and it always goes first. So what it means is, first we think, generally speaking, or something pops up in our mind, and then we do it. We might say something, or we might act out physically. And so mind is the forerunner of our actions. And so in that sense, mind is the master, and body and speech are like the servants of the master.
I thought that the answer came on Shepherds, the answer to the Sanger was Penna Garasagor, accident chain. Well, some don't meba. And the attention of that thing you was the
So the point I'm making here is, generally speaking, that first we think and then we act, or something pops up in our mind, and then we might follow that in actions physically and verbally. Of course, there are exceptional cases. Probably you might bring up issues like, what happens when I run into accident that I didn't plan to do it. I wasn't thinking of running the accident, but I have an accident here. Well, yes, there are cases like that, but those are very rare, exceptional cases. But overall, first things pop up in the mind, and then we follow them through actions of body and speech.
And the kitchen, but so that Ali sound is the baking in my those things. When so good of the so good, yin so jelly. So Gurgus and somebody went down. Then in any cut here down, any Luke Yongusia doesn't go to us.
Now let me give you an example to illustrate my point, how mind first plans it all out. Let's say in the case of killing, which is a very serious negative karmic action, first one, develops the intention to kill. Okay, I want to kill someone. Okay? So it pops up in the mind. And then one plans it out. Okay, how am I going to do that? Maybe I'm going to talk with some friends, how to kill, someone. So your speech is involved, just communicating with someone how to kill or learn about killing. And then we put the body into action. Now we, move to different locations or whatever the things we need to do in order to carry out this, intention to kill. So this is how the mind runs the whole show, that we develop the intention or the motivation to kill, then we plan it out, then we use the speech to talk with others, or, and then we use the body to carry out the action.
I took the Captain Samalo. Then they say go somebody went down it, then they get like you. I didn't say the was.
So this is, the same with other negative actions that we may find ourselves involved. It could be stealing, lying, deceiving people, indulging in sexual misconduct. So first, things pop in the mind, and then the idea of what happens in the mind is carried out in action, verbally and physically.
다다가 나 이게 개회 솔도 상당히나 아니 개와지 두디 전에 르다 나다 르가 그 개와지 가리 더비네 땅 그노데 샘딩 땅네 아니 샤세야 땅 저바 피야 땅 아니 대바세야 땅 참말로 아니 뭘 아니 게sem게 개회 샘다 그노 이혼도고 도와서.
Now, what I'm telling you, how mind runs the whole show, is important, is more important than body and speech. It's true in the case of positive karmic actions as well. When we do positive actions, we often talk about the need to think positively, right? We want to generate positive motivation. So then, with that positive motivation, now we engage in positive actions such as offering respect to Buddhas, or prostrating before Buddhas or enlightened beings, or making offerings, or cultivating faith in Buddhas. So the mind is again plays a very important role here. Is a forerunner. It goes before all our practices.
계속 간디지 개와 소수 개와 류가 기타시 개와 간디지 두비겠네 최 간디지 쉐베나 꾸노든 야바든 흔 땅고 그랬어.
So the point I'm trying to make here is it doesn't matter what kind of practice we do, maybe very basic practice or maybe very advanced practice, or in which case we have to use our speech and body to do our practice. But the first thing first, we must cultivate pure motivation and proper motivation.
담보들이 통장이 샤와니 담보 샤와듯이 그런 땅시 아니 무이기듯이 주버듯이 다 예수 아니 호와야고 시 다 도시니 조르노 육숨 창와지 땅에 받듯이 조와 땅 무이기 땅 주스 다 숨부대 창와지 도와 두지는 야바시고.
As it is emphasized in the Lojong practice or mind training or thought transforming practice, and the statement reads, there are two important actions, one at the beginning and one at the end. Now the question is, what are they? The important action at the beginning refers to cultivating proper motivation. That's where it all begins. When we do our practice or positive actions, we must cultivate positive motivation. And then we engage in whatever the action is or the practice is. And at the end of our practice, we should conclude our practice with proper dedication. So dedication is the other important action at the end. And so that's, goes with every practice we do, small or big practice. And in other words, we often talk about, three things with regard to our practice. There is the jorva, which is the preliminary, which primarily includes cultivating proper motivation. Then there is the actual practice, which happens in the middle. And then there is the conclusion, which happens at the end. And that conclusion, the most important thing, is proper dedication of our merit. See? So that completes our practice of the action. So if we bring all the things that I'm talking about, or all our practices, into like two simple statements, that is, not harming others, but helping others.
never Masheba Sene, Dabale, never shake me, never share again, nobody, some Tony, never share the carving in a pain chiggers.
So instead of simply not hurting or harming others, and without thinking about, okay, I do not want to harm others, without necessarily having that motivation, if we just simply don't hurt others, well, that's pretty good. But if we really cultivate the motivation and commit ourselves that I do not want to hurt anybody, then our really commitment, or how should I say, our action of not harming others become even more stronger, powerful, because of the power of motivation and commitment. And for the same reasons, let's say if we help others without necessarily having any motivation to benefit, that's good. We're helping others. But if we help others with altruistic motivation, that by the power of whatever this little help I'm giving to others, may it become a cause for me to become an enlightened being for the benefit of all other sentient beings, that help we give to others, now it becomes extremely powerful, practice and action.
So that do that in a jar with a kind of and this Saint Yen, Ranley, Yen, Saint Yen to Samalo, Lakadi Chimbuch Chagas, but that's some Congress.
As His Holiness the Dalai Lama often reminds us that we must reflect on how all sentient beings have been very kind to us. So we need to really feel gratitude to sentient beings for their kindnesses. Conventionally speaking, if we do something bad to someone who has been kind to us, how unbecoming it is for us to do that. People will say, like, how ungrateful you are. That person has been so kind to you, but you turn out to be a very ungrateful person, Now, if we really think very deeply how sentient beings have been very kind to us, now it's the same thing here. If we hurt them or we do something bad to them, it is like we are showing our ungratefulness to sentient beings. They have been so kind to us, but now we are returning their kindness with harms. And that is very improper and unbecoming on our part.
That sometimes social control is that I don't care if anything do. It's a German, they 3 inches a German. And it Saint Candidating the another charting capacity. That is the given thing was. So they around the given zoom way at the time he given zingy mason loved it, they can't take each other was.
So sometimes when we lose our temper, or when delusions really pop up strongly in our mind, we hear either ourselves or people say, well, I don't care about this whole thing, and maybe to make it stronger, I think this is appropriate to say, I don't give a damn to it. Well, that is really not a good thing to say, and we are wrong in saying that and thinking that way, because what we really need to do is we need to learn to respect and cherish other sentient beings. They have been very kind to us, others including all our enemies as well. because they have not always been our enemies. So if sentient beings need to be cherished, so how dare can we say, I don't care? What does it mean, if we don't care about the beings that we really need to care, so how does it sound? So we must not even get into the habit of saying such things, let alone thinking about I don't care.
Dan den sanje temba yin da chi yibate an de nge sanje temden de dan choran chol labje yin atene ji tuna jidata ran temba jachim jungures kanam.
And then the last line of Buddha's summary statement is, this is the teaching of the Buddha. Completely tame your mind, subdue one's mind. This is the teaching of Buddha. What he meant by that is, so this is my advice to you. So you can think about it, and if it all makes sense, take my advice, And so if you do that, you might be able to benefit others very much.
That thing is you had the Maran Sama Ngaran, Tansang Ran Sama Lole, Shingi or Tenso Tonya, machine it's all Nil Habjains.
So I thought it would be nice to share these, ideas today, as I often do, for two reasons. As a reminder for those who already know about these things, and including myself, and this might be new ideas for people who are new to this kind of teaching. So in order to benefit everybody, including myself, so I thought it would be nice to share those ideas. No, again, this is positive my answer.
Koyo tembi tu ma yin se ta.
No.
Koyo tembi tu ma yin. Wenba tembi tu yin se. Tan de do se ta. Tan de ni kam sung ba de chama lo ta. Zo de ne ta. Kare so ta. Ta gindi ba se na min du ta. Ande do sung ba res. Ta ina shidan ni nga ju ko go res. Ikam de ne Koran koyo tembi tu mares. Kares wamba tembi tu koyo tembi nan dunzi sheta. Ani luila kares ani luilan dunzi tam da patum kares dan dunzi mi mangbo tuya ta tende she. Ani semla nanto mangbo jun go re. Jeso koyo tendu shebe na. Jete koyo tembi tu mares. Wamba tembi tu res. Ne wamba la de ne. Let
us go back to where we left off in this wonderful text called Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshe's Advices. Great Indian Master Adisha, and he is giving advice to some of his great disciples at their request. And so he advises them that this is not the time to cultivate followers and not to cultivate yes, that's right, crowd and followers, but this is the time to be in solitude and do your practice, meditation. So why is Adisha saying this is, of course, Adisha is telling this, directly to them, but there is also a message to us. What happens is, if we spend time to cultivate, friends and followers, in the case of teachers, then you get involved in the busyness of life, not business, busyness of life. And the hectic and hustle and bustle kind of life involves the two things. Our body becomes very, busy in doing things, socializing with people, and being in the crowd and meeting and all that. So that is the hustle and bustle kind of life. So not much time left to do practice because you have to pay attention so much to people. And at the same time, our mind becomes very busy So there's a hustle and bustle inside as well, in that now you have to think about so many things and, to deal with the crowd and the people, and that is a distraction. And so what is really important is to find a solitude, a solitary place, and to focus on one's practice, meditation.
Ta yo bu tenja ma cha chang zhen yang gan ben de qian bu da gan ben de zhe yu wei ne ta de de ba le yo bu shi ma ro kun zu ma zu yin da yo bu shi de la che de ne dang le ga xin ge zhe le yo bu shi do de da khor shi de zhen yang chue den ge de le khor da yong ro ba a che zhen de ma ji da en ba tem bi tu res wen ba te na jun che ga re de ti che go ro.
So here, of course, in Tibetan it says kor yok, means to cultivate. Kor literally means followers, so which seems to be applicable more to those who are in higher status or position, particularly, teachers who might be into cultivating students or disciples, or like people in higher status try to cultivate following big. And Yok literally means to cultivate servants. People in higher status, they would like to have many people to serve them underneath. And maybe they are paid, maybe not paid, whatever the case may be. But in a modern sense, it is like maybe as you heard Geshe mention the word company. If you are in charge of a company, you have so many people working under you. So they are paid, no doubt, but they are, of course, they are not called servants in modern sense, but they are working for you and under you. And so if one, is into cultivating such a large following and staff and whatnot, then one get very busily involved in things and actions that one does not may find time to do practice. So cultivating solitude is very important, and why? That's what we need to understand. So what is the importance of being in a solitude or in a peaceful, let's say, isolated place, if you ask? Is we often talk about, freedom for isolation from two things. When you are in a solitude, you are physically isolated from busyness of life and activities and actions, so you are not busily involved in doing something in other than your practice. You are not involved in social activities or in other kinds of activities. And so that means you have a less distraction in your life. So you have a freedom, if you will, or isolation from physical busyness. Then the other freedom or the isolation is from mental activities. And so when in a solitude, it is easier for one to work with one's mind and control one's mind. Because otherwise, if we are in a very busy places, our mind becomes very busy. It generates so many ideas and thoughts, and so many disturbing conceptions arise in our mind that we lose the peace of mind. So if we are in a solitude helps us to retain peace of mind, because our mind gains freedom from many disturbing conceptions. At the end of the three principal paths, the wonderful text from the great master Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa or Gyeltsen, and he concludes that three principal texts by saying, you should find solitude and generate the power of enthusiastic perseverance, and you should advance towards fulfilling your ultimate goal.
no, that drink the youngins.
No.
Drink the youngin, that Chica Kindu, drink the youngin, and that drink can't shoot it in summer long and so the
Chinese again, they shoot the tar of the wagon. How much is to get
down? Floma say with 2 mines, Rani say with 2 inches. Floma part 2 years, 2 around 2 years, 2 inches.
And the next great Adisha, because there are 3 more lines and then we finish that section. Adisha advises his students, this is not the time to try to subdue or tame your students or disciples. This is the time to tame your own mind, subdue your mind.
That is Larun and Tibar, Larun and Takanel. And the round Mandu Yin do Mares. There's a tambo round the attrication, but it's Kana, Jeromuche Kana.
Jeromuche also states very clearly in his Lamrim treatises on the stages of path to enlightenment, and I quote, one must tame oneself first. Without taming or subduing oneself first, one cannot tame and subdue others. So this is the same thing. First, one needs to subdue one's own mind, and then one will be able to subdue others' mind. Otherwise, if one's own mind is not tamed or subdued, how can one subdue or tame others' minds?
That is Naras tablet Zumuramato Yang, me, that shape of Tambatanding, that shape of Tambatanzo, and is Hindu Duguri, Hindu Duvalachute, but solitude in the unit to Yamar, just Dangarazanayake, we, Narazanay, don't do second numbers.
So we must understand for whom this kind of advice is directed to or meant for. I think what Atisha says is more for us, people like us, who need to subdue our own mind first. But this state may not be applicable to highly realized holy masters and beings, because they have tamed their mind so well that they really should not be staying in solitude. Maybe they should be more out in the, so to speak, public to give teachings and to benefit sentient beings. So this does not apply to them, but this applies more to people like us who first need to tame our own mind in order to help others.
That imbetter, that is Umadi. Sigi zoom with 2 minds, the other some between us. That Sing Mango could do is to that Sing Mango do it to share that take a watch of the she drummers, then that is not only done that the any Gumbal that going at the kitchen which is 2 race, the one with 2 race, and it is true, Cassin and Ticket and that Shepherd and Jigma Cassian, the Pengu America, do the correct 2 race, round the Shepherd and Yanson the 2 race.
And then Great Adisha advises his students that this is not the time to hold on to just the words or the terms, but this is the time to contemplate the meaning of the words. Yeah. So of course words are very important. This may serve as a reminders, but if we simply understand the words of Dharma, but if we do not meditate on the meaning of the words, then we are missing the bigger point. So understanding the words is important, but what is more important even is to contemplate and meditate on the meaning of the words.
That is humanitarian. Pension do with 2 minds. Pension parts chumney, and then dwell 2 mares. Psyche the debit 2 inches.
And then this particular section concludes by his advice that this is not a time to move around, but this is a time to sit in one place. So what is Adisha telling us here is this is not the time to, go around, meaning, go, to the markets, and even if we're not going to buy anything, just go on a window shopping, look around, or go to the beaches and just, look around. This is not time for that, but this is the time to sit in a place and do our practice.
Lega ke medicine tab tingoki but the parts out that ringing rogun some pick up parts change and get a chance here and they have to say my rest first so this is my was then and then should do have to risk on.
So, what it means for us is that when we are day off from our work, then we feel like, okay, I need to go and visit my friends or hang out with people I know, and then go to their places, and then we just, spend our all time gossiping and things like that. And this is not time for that, but this is the time to make time for our own practice, sit down and do our practice.
I think
what we are really doing is, in some ways, is an irony said. Now, for us, it is like this. Almost, we are telling us that this is not the time to do practice or meditation. This is the time to go around.
That the loss is. I think human is yen kasakan reactive marriage cycle dene and yaneshi to his gun so stick some young.
So we seems to be doing just the opposites of all the things Adisha is advising, So instead of saying this is the time to sit and meditate but not to go around, we are saying, well, this is the time to go around, not to sit and meditate, And instead of being in a solitude and do practice, but we said this is the time to go around and mix in the crowd and, cultivate more friends and, do stuff. And so others is just, telling us just the opposites of what we are doing and, we may be thinking.
Modak David Sole, Yaju, take the dogs and Kuno the time and they are launching, David is some mother and one doesn't change it. And then what a time she done, that's only about doing.
Yeah, we often might find ourselves in a very, kind of ironic situation. Like we have so much time sometimes that, we go and try, spend a little bit of time even trying to find our car keys because we don't know where we left it. So we find it, then we just sit in the car and we start and we're just on the road. And then often we realize that we are not going anywhere. Just, moving around and then, spend some time just doing nothing and then come back.
Wait a minute, why to go? Okay, that ring I was chosen and the Geshes show. And then that get that cage, you can that thing. When you men do some macan, I get the saying young Jagris.
So I think we had a lot of fun today. Just we have a lot of laughters, and but the important thing is don't forget the key points that I was, explaining to you before, and we will stop there today. And I think any emailed some prayer requests. I think they are stuck in the cyberspace. They didn't land down on my laptop yet. So anyway, think about the people who always need prayer. So we pray for.
It's like a person's Kati. Named Kathy, she's 79 or something, she passed away, and also including that, sorry, that is hanging among somewhere was. That doesn't say the
So Geshe already said one name, and he said there are other people, we may not have received their names, but we are sure that many people have passed away, and many people are suffering from sickness and other kinds of problems. So we really think about all of them, and say some prayers for their benefit.
Shadow follows Gawadi and Yudo, changes of one to John, what is on that ring and that's a trick niche be gave it all a penny, Sanji Tamaramba, Tajin, the never show. And then Javi, you know, betray within the shape of Taman and Chukuri have it, but Kuji don't be making doing one. And then trade drinking, show woman is changing shower incident Robata. And you think you come to the end of Mentibic Sota the Henny, Tinching Sota that may be doing one.
Coming together this morning and participating in the teaching, we have accumulated merit, and we dedicate our merit for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. By the power of our collective merit, may His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May these and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and may beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. In short, we dedicate our collective merit for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state soon. Tenzin Dorjee,
Okay. Thank you.